Recording in progress.
Nope.
I came for the excitement.
Recording in progress.
How we doing, Jennifer?
We're good. Did you, David, can you hear us?
David, come.
Yes, it gave me some air.
Randy, how about me?
The host is not allowing people to unmute themselves.
No, I'm not. So leave yourself unmuted. And Randy, you're.
Yes. All right, welcome everyone to the April 14th meeting of the Hadley Select Board. This is a joint meeting with our Finance Committee as well. So I'm going to call the meeting to order. With me this evening, we have Amy Parsons, myself, Molly Keegan, Jane Nevin-Smith, and then via Zoom we have Randy Iser and David Phil for the Select Board. In accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 22 of the Acts of 2022, signed by the Governor on February 15th, I announce that this meeting of the Select Board is being recorded by Hadley Media, the Select Board's office via Zoom, and ask if there is anyone present who is also recording the meeting. Appears that no one else is. Please let the minutes reflect that no one else has indicated that they are recording this meeting. And then for this evening, for purposes of our hybrid meeting, if anybody would like to speak, could you please raise your hand? And we'll make sure that you're called on. Anybody who's on Zoom.
Push the button, raise hand, not like signal.
Yeah.
I'm watching it either way.
Anyone.
Okay.
You can either wave wildly or put the hand up. Okay. And Finance Committee, do you want to call your meeting to order?
I'd like to call the meeting of the Finance Committee meeting to order. And tonight we have myself, Amy Fiden, Paul Benjamin, we have Andy Kopacki and Peter Tusko.
All right. So, first order of business, looks like you have some minutes to be approved.
We do have some minutes to be approved. I sent through minutes for, I have March 12th, March 26th, and April 9th.
Oh, and yours on that. I did read them. I'll make a motion to approve the minutes for those dates.
Okay.
Zoom as a sweep, if everybody's good.
Yep. Do I have a second?
Second.
First by Paul, second by Peter, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, sure.
Okay, great. All right, so we have two agenda items and only two this evening, but they're very meaty. So we have the FY26 budget, and then we have the annual town meeting 2025 warrant discussion. So
You have one?
a warrant, do you have a plan on when you
I do
want
have
us
one,
to
yeah.
start?
And you have one?
Yep.
This-
This would, I think this would normally be a finance, I think the finance wants to discuss the budget. Finance committee wants to discuss the budget. I can give just a 2-second kind of overview of where we're at with the budget, and then they can discuss the budget. We can go over any alterations they are suggesting, if they're suggesting any for it. And then we can kind of go into the warrant, because they also need to take votes on the warrant articles tonight. And the select board will likely take up both of those issues at your Wednesday meeting. So, I guess just to keep it very, very simple, because there is a lot to go through, and I know that you've been reviewing the budget As you know, we have presented a balanced budget to you. To my knowledge, as you stand right now, the only issue that may be up for kind of discussion is the use of the stabilization fund to cover the only portion of the budget that's not technically covered within the balanced portion of the budget, which is half of the fire department personnel, the ambulance line, so to speak. So as you know, Linda and I have really kind of gone pretty deep into making reductions to all of the departments. I think that since even if you weren't present for all of the department presentations, you watched them. I think you saw the fact that we have some great department heads here and they're willing to kind of share the load, so to speak, share the pain. I think everyone wanted to come in and express what their needs were, while at the same time not, knowing that if they were going to be granted anything else, it was going to have to come from another department in order to make that happen. And so I think there's been great cooperation throughout the departments. And so what you have in front of you is not only an overall balanced budget, but also balanced between departments as best we could. We really tried to, we went back probably 2 or 3 times and made reductions and adjustments to different departments, and we tried to do it as evenly as we possibly could. And I think that even though it was mildly painful, I think we're in a good position to approach FY26. And so, with that, we'd love to hear what your thoughts are on whether or not you're okay to move forward.
So, I have a few thoughts. I'll just start with, not necessarily on any particular line items, such as I'm not talking about any particular budget at all, or not looking, I mean, I understand when we went through each and every one of them line by line, and I'm not questioning anything like that. Do have a concern with the stabilization, okay? Because if for whatever reason, the stabilization does not pass at town meeting, and even if it does pass at town meeting, we're gonna take it down. I think we have probably a 1.3 around that now budget, I think. Do you think I'm right, Linda?
Yep,
Right?
yep.
1.3. So if we take,
1.3, yeah.
so then if we take another 500, we'll be way below, we're gonna be going below the $1 million mark. So I do have a big concern about the stabilization. Now, the other thing is, if it doesn't pass to town meeting, I have a big concern about taking half the fire department. I do feel this is just my personal feeling, is it should be spread out throughout town and not necessarily just the fire department. I do feel like they bring a big value to our town with the emergencies that they go out on. So that is my feeling on that. So if I did crunch some numbers here, and I did have a little bit of a proposal that I would like to throw out there to talk about where, just another thought of balancing, okay? And I'm gonna be, if we could just I put my numbers down so that you
Thank
can
you.
follow me where what I'm saying.
Oh, good.
Okay, that's just. And hopefully I got enough. Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry about for Randy and David, they're gonna have to listen.
Just pass me one.
I'll give it to you after.
I was gonna say, I'll
I
take a
think there is,
screenshot.
there is another.
Yeah, there's.
Can I have one?
Okay, so when I come up with this is just my thought, when I come up with the first part, the 23 million, that was where I got the total expenses that we were starting from at the beginning. We all talked about where we were gonna go with the special revenue account. So right now, I just minused out the special revenue account at this point. I added back in the ambulance contract, but we still have to take care of that. And I added back in the firefighters, because that's the fire department. So I did add back in the firefighters wages. So then that's where I came out with the 23,074,207. I went to the book, the budget book that Linda, and she double checked my figures. I subtracted the revenues and I had a shortfall of 1.3 million. I then went and I minused out all the things that she said, ambulance income of 90, OPEB from last year of 160, opioids of 95, free cash of 868. I come up with 686. I'm sorry, 686. Thank you, Linda. I come up with now a shortfall of 320,000. With that shortfall of 325,000, if I minus out the 3% COLAs that we talked about, we always used to do it in the fall. I'm not saying not give them. I'm just saying do what we used to do, push it off to the fall like we have in the past. And that would subtract the 180. Then I'm still short the 140, 140,000. I went to the website. We do have a lot of positions open. Not that they're not needed. I'm not saying we don't need them, but I'm looking to see if there's any way we can hold off some of them and not fulfill them until we can get and know if the override is going to pass. If an override down the road does pass that have been talked about, then everything is fine. But if an override doesn't pass, we are not letting go. I am not, this is only putting a freeze on what is out there right now. We're not going to let go of it anymore. So I just thought I would throw that out there and see your thoughts.
So you're not suggesting that, are you suggesting that we freeze the hiring of all of these positions?
Not necessarily,
or
that's your
the
choice,
one-
just what
the
you,
140 that we need.
what you need, and that would, well, that would be your call.
Yeah.
That would be the call of select board. We need to balance, but that would be more of your call. If you felt like we needed a little wiggle room because you needed, and some of these numbers that on the other side are just a guess of what I thought that they would be being paid. I don't even know that for sure. We would have to double check some of my numbers. But it's a guess, and I'm just looking to see if there's a way of not laying off people and just holding tight until we can see what's gonna happen. And I'm just concerned about the free, using the stabilization. So I'd like to know, what your thoughts are.
I think if we have an option to not use stabilization, the budget won't pass.
Just in her office is nothing, just.
I think if we say, well, if you don't like using all of this, you don't have to pass this budget, we can do these things. If we just present, this is the budget, this is what we have to do to get through the next year because of our finances, it's much less confusing to the town. And if you start saying, oh, we have option A and option B, then we're gonna get other options.
Well, I'm looking to do this before we get to town. So I'm
Thank
looking,
you. That was important to hear.
sorry. So this is what we're presenting.
Okay.
So, Andy or Peter, you have any comments?
Well, I agree. I don't think we should be taking that much money out of the fire department for what they offer and what the thin of a crew that they have, that the fire chief and the assistant is actually going out on these calls. How much thinner do we want to put them at to someone's car accident, fire, structural, wherever it is? I think that would be the last place we'd want to be taking away is from our public safety. If there's any other type of way, because how would we, if we went down to 800,000, then you're talking about an override to try to get back our stabilization back up to, what's our number? We're trying to look for a base number,
Well, 2.3.
2.3. So by that, then you're asking for an override to telling the people, okay, we have to do an override. And is that just for just 1 year? Or is that for just to get that money back in? Or is that gonna be a continuing thing because of the expenses that we have, because of all the pay raises, because of the unions, because of all the things that we're buying? Where it seems like we're not catching up. Because of a lot of the things, we've got brand new buildings and no one has thought of doing any type of maintenance. It should have been thought from the very beginning, instead of doing all these spending, sorry to say, maybe not doing all these department raises or buying all this equipment, putting the buildings that we have, that we've all paid for, to keeping them functioning.
So
That's what my problem is.
Yeah.
So if there's a way that we can not use stabilization, I'd rather do that.
So what scenario is this? Now, because I know like a lot of people are like, okay, so what's happening with the ambulance? Is this just keeping what we have now and not hiring more people, but not firing? This
No,
is
no.
just to maintain what we
have now,
already
what
promised.
we have now, and the people that are here now.
Part of your alteration, I think, within here is the, if I'm correct, is the expense part of the ambulance budget.
Right.
The
You reduce
expense
that.
part, yes.
So the fire chief would have to tell us if he can continue to operate as he is now without those expenses. So all of the salaries would remain intact and the personnel would stay.
Mhm.
But the rest of those expenses that are on. Might be easier if you're looking at it.
Page 35 of
Page
the budget book.
35. So everything under the line. In the ambulance special revenue, everything under that line, under overtime. It's gonna have to be reduced except for the line in yellow, the ambulance contract.
He does have
Even more than
some in there now, not much probably. Does he have some in the special revenue count now? Still left?
That's only the 90,000.
No, we put 350 in and we've been using money for this.
He may have some, yes. Yes, and
I think
we can factor that
Probably
in.
the over, did you cut
I didn't put
We-
that in there.
You shall, yeah, shall.
And we can adjust those.
Overtime and the intermittent, when you say 393,000,
Yeah.
that means you're only
Just
keeping the top line,
Yes.
the 392.
And we can make adjustments in the fall.
Yeah.
Not saying you can't make the adjustments in the fall. I was just trying to
Right,
balance.
especially
it.
if the other things pass and then once
Right.
we have free cash certified. But so to answer your question, Amy. The only thing that remains from that budget is the salaries. And so the fire chief would have to tell us.
Mhm.
Can you continue to run things status quo as it is with those reductions?
To get to the fall.
Okay.
Linda? Do you have the number of how much the Collier study cost us in terms of salary increases plus the cost of the union increases this year? Just the labor increases for the town from those two things.
I actually wasn't involved at all in the union or Collins studies. But are you talking about for 26, going forward into 26,
No, I'm
or for the
talking
ones that are in
What we
25?
currently have accepted.
They are in the, those amounts are what were used for the 26 budget. So people's raises that were given in the middle of 25 retroactive are the basis for the 26 budget and nothing more than that. So those
Those are
basic
included.
raises are already included.
I think.
So
what I
it's
was
not
looking-
in there, the extra 3%.
Number.
Hmm?
So I think what Jane was looking for is an actual number,
An
like
actual number, because if we can say to
250,000 or
our
something.
cost, because we wanted to, not cost, because we wanted to bring our employees up to a closer rate of the
Parity.
current value of their services, we have added this much to the budget. And that also includes the X% that the unions have added.
Right, I
So
know
that would be a number.
at the special town meeting.
And there is no discussion about that because it's now. It is given.
So at the special town meeting in the fall, we did vote to put a single number into the select board's line item to cover those increases.
Okay,
And at this point, the amount, so that figure was about the same $180,000.
All right.
I would say, without going too deep into contract negotiation, it's ratified. And town meeting is the sole approval of all financials for contract ratifications. I would say that you can plan on the same amount, somewhere around the same amount for all of your unions for FY 26.
Which is why we put it in, use that same amount again in the select board
Okay.
budget for
So
27.
you're in the area of 3-ish%.
I'm down for whatever works best. I mean, like, we're 2.5 weeks away from the
So
meeting.
in order to keep it as simple as possible, and I just don't know any other way to express this, but like Jane said, and I know Amy's plan was obviously to do all this work and on front load all the work. So that what we present at town meeting is as simple as possible,
Mhm.
right?
Yes, yeah. So we didn't hear Paul.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I like it. I mean, I'm concerned about going in front. I think pushing off the COLA to the fall is a good way to go. I think if the town people are gonna have to, everybody's taking a little bit of squeeze here in terms of taxes and so on. I think we have to be fair.
Yep.
Okay, and I don't want to see us laying off people.
Yep.
So,
Also Andy and then Randy.
Yeah, so. Again, thanks to Mike and Linda for having to wade through all of this, and everybody, it's just been, no fun trying to scrape what we can, going over and over and over this. I want to echo certainly some of the things that Amy has said that and Paul, that I'm really skeptical about digging that deeply into our stabilization fund. I think that really we'll see a lot of pushback on that. And at the same time, we've got 9 positions that are open. Where is, if we're going to have an austerity measure, which is an override, where's the austerity? We have to demonstrate some austerity. I know we've had a whole bunch of cutbacks on what people were asking, but we've got, I think a strategic freeze for where we need it is warranted. And as Peter said earlier, there are other parts of the budget that are being starved, like, building maintenance. We've said this at the building committee long ago, that every building that goes up should have X amount of dollars allocated to it, or we're gonna have problems, and we do have problems, and those can get expensive quickly. And as far as when we're talking about hiring, we got salary, we also have benefits and insurance and the things like that when we talk about those wages aren't necessarily covered here. Then we get a big surprise bill in the spring. And when we have larger staff, any insurance increases, benefits increases, that's a bigger number. So I definitely think we should.
Health goes up to 18%.
Yes, 18.
I mean, I guess if I may jump in, I mean, my concern, this adds up to a lot more than
Well,
There's for instances.
these are for instances, and I get that.
it's not my
No,
judgment.
I totally get that, but I guess what it's gonna be is whether, which of these, for the time being, we absolutely need to fill, either for safety reasons or for regulation. I know there was discussion about a building commissioner. We need a building commissioner to accomplish what we need to accomplish.
Mhm.
So, this is gonna be a difficult list to go through because, you're gonna have to put it on a scale, and some of these you can't put off. But there's a lot of it here, we don't need them all. So the question is, what can we do here?
Well, I'm not even saying, do we
Oh,
need
no,
them?
I don't. I
Only
know
saying,
that.
can we
Just
hold
putting it
it?
on the table.
You're just putting it on the table. I think it's a great exercise, but I think when I look at it, there are a couple here, we're gonna need to hear from,
Oh, yeah.
obviously, the select board's gonna need to hear from people as to what is absolutely essential.
So, can we hear from Randy?
If
Randy?
you allow me, you can. I know that we don't want to see stabilization go down any more than it already is, but is that a fiscal concern or an emotional concern? And then to what Paul was just saying, how do we decide what jobs need to get filled. I know we have situations where we definitely don't have enough staffing in certain departments, and the staff that is there has to work, I'm not going to say double time, but more than they normally would to fill in the void because we don't have employees. So I don't know how we can decide that your department can get an employee and your department can't. And if, I mean, whatever the rationale is behind the stabilization fund, it needs to be explained at town meeting so that town meeting can decide what they want to do.
David, do you have any?
She's got. David can't.
Just
Unmuted
kidding.
himself. I told him not to mute himself. You gotta stay unmuted.
I know it's a bad habit, but I try to stay quiet when I'm not talking. So yeah, I think stabilization, part of it is, yeah, we like to have a big number there because, like Randy, like you were saying, a kind of an emotional thing. But at the same time, I think it is a fiscal concern, because if we have, emergency repairs to the dike, or we have some other major issue in town, we have no other source of rainy day funding other than stabilization. And so we've already dipped into it kind of more than I'm comfortable with, but it was our only option the last couple times, and it seemed. But I do have some big concerns about dipping into it further. I think we should be replenishing it if at all possible in the future. I know that goes a little ways towards our, supporting our bond rating as well, which is important, especially if we're going to do a new building of some sort in the future. As far as the positions and the hiring, I do think that just kind of what I'm hearing around town, at the possibility of an override or a new building, is concerns about creating new positions. So I do think it would be a good idea to maybe put a freeze on creating new positions that don't already exist, because I think that could be something we do relatively easy. I think putting a hiring freeze, so to speak, of filling existing positions, we probably need to do a little bit more digging into, who needs to be replaced. Is it a police officer, a firefighter, a DPW guy, whatever. And we can make that decision down the line, but I think it would go a long way toward gathering support from the public if we said, look, we're not creating new positions, we need to get our stuff together and our finances in order, so here are some of the things that we're doing in addition to possibly asking for an override.
Now, what I'm hearing you say to me is basically we need to get to choose, if we were to do this, to choose 3 of these positions to get to $140,000.
I'm not saying anything yet, right now. I'm just putting it up for discussion. I'm just saying, and I'm not saying they're not important. I'm saying, can you push off a couple of these until we can find out?
But what I'm saying is,
Yes.
it looks like on an average, it would be 3 that we would have to decide to put off.
Probably.
If we go that route. Okay, thank you.
Something like
Can
that.
I just, I'm sorry, no, go.
Okay, so, Amy's right, I have no issue with pushing off the cost of living. Especially, yeah, we've done it before, but we are also coming off of contract negotiations. Not everybody got a market adjustment, but I think, I think that could fly, and it's a couple $100,000. Like David said, I'm less enthralled with not hiring current vacancies. Because when I go down this list, knowing what I know about these positions, wastewater treatment plant operator, these are critical infrastructure jobs. We're talking about public safety. Building commissioner is very much revenue generating, so we don't want to shoot ourselves in the foot by not bringing that position in. And so maybe if you get down to some of the assistant positions, we might be able to squeak by, but those aren't big dollars. And I guess question I have, I'm wondering, maybe, can we kind of split the baby a little bit here? Reduce the amount that we're planning on taking out of stabilization. but still take some out of stabilization. Part of, and I agree, it's not fiscally prudent to be pulling money out of stabilization to fund operating, period, end of the conversation. I think we all know that. But I also want to make sure town meeting understands where we're at. And this is where we're at. I mean, we are hitting a wall here. And I worry a little bit about, we saved the day, now we still have all the stabilization money in there. And then when it comes time to have the more serious conversation about what the next several years is going to look like, town meetings like, where's the problem? I think how this all gets positioned is important. So
I just want to remind everyone that we had a larger FinCom reserve that in case of emergencies, we've cut that down to now it's only 20. So there's not much there. So if there is something that comes in or an emergency, there's only 20 in there.
Sewer reserves, is there anything left?
You got about,
No, there's nothing left.
yeah,
Yeah.
nothing.
So it's gone.
13,000.
So,
Right.
so to bring, and we wanted you want 10%. You want 10% of your operating
Yeah, that's
budget
the
to be, that's your target. And we are at 1.3. So instead of 2.3, we are at 1.3. So we are well below the target, well below, in case something happens.
And
Okay,
to your
I
point that this is where we're at. We are taking measures.
Yep.
And it's
Yeah.
not like we're just glossing over it and yet there's not a problem. You're trying to do everything we can. And by, pushing back COLAs and looking at, taking a look again at these new positions. And deferring where we can. That is measures that, you're doing when we're up against this wall.
yeah, I'm just saying, Andy, I just don't see these.
See, the firefighter I believe we just got, it wasn't printed, but I think we have an opening maybe on the firefighter. So that was one we have, that was right there. That's why I hand wrote it, because I believe that's there. Yeah, possibly.
I didn't know we
Don't
were,
yet. You
Oh,
don't yet.
no.
You may.
Oh, okay.
I was gonna say, I didn't know that we had a vacancy.
Okay, so I'm spoken, sorry. And then I thought, when I mentioned the building commissioner, you need one, but the person that could possibly be one might not have all the certifications as of yet. So can you, as soon as the certifications come, then you do the increase or something like that, just throwing things out there. So maybe it's a period of time while we're waiting for the certifications to come, that some of it can be adjusted. So that's why I kind of, not that you need a building inspector, you need someone, but
But how does that work? So if we have to lean on a neighboring town to provide inspection services that we don't have the qualifications in-house to do right now, that we're working towards. So we collect the revenue, but we've got to pay. Yeah, so you're reducing revenue no matter what.
Yeah, you're
Right.
paying somebody no matter what.
It's a problem.
And you have to do it the right way. You have to make sure that there's a commissioner to either sign off on somebody else's inspections that they work for, or you have to bring in a commissioner from another community and ultimately you're just trading.
yeah. So I do think that, I'm just saying to look at that.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Because
I have no
they're-
problem looking, I'm just saying. I
At the
don't think
whole,
that-
that the whole department, because I didn't know if there was anything there, but obviously you need one, and then that's why I'm saying, I thought maybe that, especially maybe an assistant or something like that could be,
This is a stopgap. This is
anyways,
essentially a stopgap to get us through this
that's,
a couple of months here. Because we need a longer term plan
yeah,
to solve the problem that we're in.
Yeah.
Which is ever increasing costs. And look, everybody can find something that they think we shouldn't have done, or did somebody approve some building or didn't do that or bought a piece of equipment. The bottom line is, everything we've got, we've got. It doesn't matter whether you agree with it or not. We have increasing costs that are not the fault of the town. From wage inflation in the last few years, inflation on everything we purchased. We have equipment that you can't even get parts for. It's an upside down world in terms of what most of us are used to. And we have to come up with a I don't want to use the word progressive, I'm sorry, because that'll set off some people, okay? We have to come up with a plan,
Responsible.
a responsible plan for the next decade or so to get this, our financial footing back to where it should be, where we have proper reserves, where we're putting money aside to take care of the buildings that we own. And are able to afford, you know, the compensating the people that we employ, who we trust with our town, to be paid fair wages and the benefits, and be able to cover all that and still move forward as a town. And that's what we need. We need a plan beyond this, and that's not gonna happen tonight. But I think that the people who are voting, who are gonna vote on this, have to understand what we're dealing with right now. It's not from, you know, anything other than a lot of factors that came into this town, the whole world is facing. We have never gone in front of the town. I don't think there's ever been like an override. I've only lived here for, I don't know, 20 years or something, but this is not a town that does overrides. I used to live in one of the neighboring towns and there were overrides all the time. And frequently, after the override, the few that didn't pass, all of a sudden they found money, which used to really tick off people. But that's not how I see things run here. I think it's an extremely tight budget, and I think the fact that that in our community, that the different diverse group of department heads from, you know, different types of businesses, different types of services in our town, the diversity of the services that we have in terms of, you know, everything from wastewater to police, fire, everything are all working together to try and make a budget that they can all live with. In terms of holding back, says a lot about how this town is run. Okay.
So what I'm gathering right now that we need to decide amongst ourselves if, I mean, is it pretty fair to say that everyone is amenable to what Amy gave us? So
It's down to the 140.
Down to
I
the
think we've
140.
gotten to the
So,
140
okay,
agreement.
so now for the 140 portion, we're hearing we don't want to freeze hiring. We still want to make sure that we're able to fill necessary positions. So if everyone, if I guess the majority of us don't want to have a hiring freeze, then would we be amenable to making up for that with stabilization? I mean, it's not the 552,000, but would everyone be okay with maybe 140,000 coming out of stabilization?
Or maybe it winds up being 120.
Or, yeah, or, but
Mhm.
that's what I'm feeling
Yeah.
like that's our option.
Right. Jane, you want to say something?
So I see, one of the things I think has happened. Unfortunately, it's called COVID. And that came at a time where we were moving along, things were humming nicely. And all of a sudden, starting in 1920 or 2020, excuse me. a long
That was a
time
different
ago.
one. That was a different.
That was the other one. That's right.
2020. If you look at the cost of living increases from 2020 to 2024, they're up 17%. And if you look at a 2.5% increase, that's 12%. So we're 5% behind by doing nothing. But it was COVID that made us unable to say to our people, we need to keep a little bit at a time. What we have heard for water and sewer all the time. Don't hit us all at once. Give us a little bit at a time. Okay, we didn't, we couldn't.
Yeah.
And now we're here.
Yeah.
And I don't think we can apologize for that. I think we just need to acknowledge it and say, here is the problem.
Well, and I think to the point that, I think it was Peter said earlier, you're talking about the deferred maintenance on the buildings. When you think about our staff, you kind of make the same argument. I mean, the whole reason that Collins study was done is because we weren't keeping up with.
No, I've worked on 10 to 15 buildings myself in out of state, and I've been able to carry, 8 to 10 buildings myself. So you can't say because of lack of staff.
No,
Where, I just want to make sure the way
Yeah,
you're
no,
saying
no,
it like that because of not enough of people.
no.
Okay, I was gonna say because,
No, what I was saying is we put off, just like we're saying, we kind of put off setting money aside and incrementally putting money into these maintenance budgets. We kept telling our town hall staff, manana, don't worry, we'll get around to looking at your wages. And
Right.
so unfortunately, we wound up with this big nut
Right?
of a couple $100,000 getting added to wages all in one fell swoop,
Yeah.
which in retrospect probably wasn't a great idea.
Right, I mean, I'm looking at, I know our taxes didn't go up, but our excise tax went up, and you look at the revenue is almost 700,000. Nothing, you know, fire didn't change, police, emergency, water didn't change. I know my taxes went up $500 and nothing changed. You're not gonna say that it's a tax increase for property I'm not gonna sell. So that's the frustration. It's like, okay, there's an extra 3/4, don't buy the, you know, the way how it goes.
Well, there's a
But,
position.
you know, the way how it goes.
Well, there's a
But
position.
I know there's a position there.
All right.
I know there's a position there.
All right.
But that's the frustrating part is it sounds like that they're, but that's the frustrating part is it sounds like that they're surprised because of the money and the surprised because of the money and the potential cuts. I've only been here for a year, potential cuts. I've only been here for a year and it's been warned of, you gotta stop our spending.
So before you were on, we already,
Stop our spending.
so before you were on, we already voted, we were gonna put money aside for the salary increases. That was a given.
And clear, and if there are, if we're gonna be talking further over summer, because obviously, even if that's all passed, we know we've got issues ahead of us. How are we going to solve that? You know, what kind of override, whether it's for, you know, the portion of it for operations, a portion for capital, maybe even a dedicated one for maintenance. I mean, these are things that keep putting the input in and we'll keep working on solutions. And I think that's one of the things that we want to do. We just want to make sure that some of these interests don't compete with each other. So if we have a, you know, I was talking with Amy this afternoon, if we have a capital stabilization override, which I think people would be in favor of, and a maintenance one, which they'd like, you might have people choosing one and the other, and they would just defeat each other, neither would pass. So we've got some planning to do about how we get the money set aside. The money doesn't get set aside. I think we figured out to the best of our ability, and you know, I've been working for 3 years here. We're working on I use less and less free cash with each budget, and we just can't get past and started going the other way. There's going to need to be some other kind of infusion of funds, whether it's by override, and we also have some other revenue possibilities if we're able to increase our local meals and rooms tax, our local excise tax, that's another possibility. And certainly if that comes about, we will be factoring that in with what kind of override we're looking for. We're not just, you know, these will all come together. So I hope we'll be able to address all the concerns, but I think we, you know, we all got here together, and I think that we'll be able to figure it out. We got through COVID without laying anyone off. And when COVID passed and things started turning around again, we were intact. Our town was ready to keep on going and do what it had to do. And I know that we've hit a spot right now, and I'm hoping for the best thing, for that. This is what's going to happen for the town again, that we're going to get through this. It's not just us. You're reading about this in towns all around us. And I know Molly was trying to analogize this, putting it off as sort of hopping on what Jane had said about putting things off because this isn't a good time for a raise. That's what happened to the health insurance. They weren't raising anyone's health insurance. And then all of a sudden, wham, we all get hit with that raise. At the same time, we're dealing with other issues. So it kind of is, a lot of things have been hitting us at once. And I think someone said it's not, you know, not all our fault. You know, we don't have a, we can't see into the future as well as we would like to, but I think you're going in a really good direction here tonight. I know there's some other issues that you want to.
I do agree, and I think that everybody's talked about how important some of these spots are, and we have a lot of work to do because of what we need. We need more, and we do have work to do on like if we can do a override or whatever we're talking about, but I don't want to put all our eggs in one basket saying it's gonna and bank on that happening. And if it doesn't happen, yeah, maybe it might at town meeting, but if it doesn't happen at the ballot, if I pushed off someone rather than have to lay off someone.
Mhm.
So that's my thinking too.
Mhm.
If I rather push it off, if it's at all possible and say, okay, and then we don't have the layoff. Because later, if we're not balanced, then we're gonna end up to do the layoff.
Well,
So-
don't layoffs cost us a fair amount anyway, and,
Right, but you have to
Sure.
plan B. I'm saying plan B. If all is well and you had an override and everything went perfectly, then we won't have this conversation. Then it would be easy for all of us.
then it's our point, our business, as the committees, to sell it to the townspeople and not to say, oh, no, we don't want to do
No,
that.
but you have to have a plan B, and so I'm just saying, if it doesn't, I'd rather push someone off than have to lay off someone.
Yeah, so my thought, no,
No, you don't.
no, I cut you off before.
I just want, so it sounds like there's a potential for two different recommendations. The first being present the budget as presented to the town and let them decide on the utilizing the stabilization fund to cover the ambulance. And then have a contingency plan in place,
No,
this?
I think this would be what we present, right?
Well, that's what we're
That's
discussing right
recommendation.
now.
That's,
That's the question.
All right, and so I guess
A or B?
my next question would be, if you were to, let's just say we did all of these jobs, just so we didn't have to, just for sake of argument, so we didn't have to make a decision as to whose department doesn't get to hire somebody. We did all these jobs. This is, I don't know, $250,000.
Yeah.
If the hiring freeze would be to hold off to special town meeting, thank you for using my name of the meeting. Wouldn't that just give us $250,000 of anticipated free cash for the fall? I mean, it's not gonna, if this is the money for this current budget in FY 25, where we are right now, these are jobs that we are hiring for FY 25.
But only a portion will be in 2025.
Right,
Some of them were,
so that's my point, is that if we
Yeah.
don't hire them until SSTM, is that just to see if the override
Yeah.
passes?
that's it.
Okay, and what if it doesn't?
Then we go to the next plan, but maybe that's less people that we're gonna
Alright.
say, I'm sorry, you don't have a job anymore.
We need a big
So-
bake sale.
Amy, the only thing I would
It's gonna
say,
be,
That's like $450 here,
If-
by the way.
yeah, sorry.
the only thing I would say about doing it this way, this is, I kind of have a pet peeve about hiring freezes, but like David said, no new positions created unless they generate so much revenue that it's for the good of the order that you bring them on, right? So I'm okay with that, like not adding. But this is just a moment in time. So my worry is that if we say any vacancies don't get filled, that's very different from saying we have $140,000 shortfall and town meeting says, no, you're not taking that as stabilization, right? Then we would have to go back to the table and it's going to involve people. But management collectively would decide which positions, because from a management standpoint, we may think it would be better for the town or less impactful to the town to lay an existing filled position off. And and not, and go ahead and hire the building commissioner. You know what I mean? So I'm wondering if, again, there's kind of a happy medium we could think through here. Do you know what I'm saying? Because
Yeah, and
these are, I mean, effectively, they're almost arbitrary just because of,
they're the ones on the website.
They're just
Right.
ones on the website.
But this is, this is also 466,000 represented in the back of the page, and we're looking for a 140 target, and, is there, what are the new positions that here, or the recently created positions that are vacant, are there any options there?
And we're only talking, so the summer, we're in April, and this is May, so we're talking May, June, and we're talking July before we know anything, we're talking 3 months.
Mhm.
So it's not like we're talking a long time. We're talking, you know, can you kick the can on a couple things for 3 months to get us through? So you know where we're at.
Well, I mean, quite frankly, in some cases, the can may kick itself. Is that even a thing?
So kicking cans have not been invented yet.
So,
I believe they're working on it. I believe they're working on
Now,
it,
when
but I
it comes
don't.
to the building commissioner, we know that, what, he has 180 days for him to get his certification. But I think that whether or not if he is gonna get it, I think that's what it was when it comes to. You're talking about the alternate and the building commissioner, I thought there was 180 days for him to get these other certifications and then. You know, because we're
Well,
counting for that money, but.
yeah, and I don't want to necessarily say which one. I guess
Right.
the other thing we have to decide here is we're gonna go through the warrant and how are we gonna vote? And we're just are you gonna do all your voting tonight?
Wednesday, I think we were planning
Yeah,
on,
not
right?
tonight. Y'all, this is the finance.
Okay,
Yeah, this was
If
just a
you, I
talk to you
guess
guys, yeah.
my suggestion would be if you can give us, even if you're not gonna vote, give Linda and I some marching orders. Just an idea of what you're looking for. We can go back into the budget and try to find where we can either make reductions or decide where the freezes will be. And we can work on that. We can get that done by Wednesday.
And that's the thing we need, you know, real, not that your numbers are real numbers, Linda, I love your numbers. But when we're using estimates here right now,
Yeah.
right? So
We'll figure that out.
we would have to know like what that COLA.
Yeah, unfortunately, when you're doing a budget, you have to do it by department. It would be nice to have some fluidity here. And that we put off a job put off hiring in this department for 3 months, okay? And then another opening, someone leaves in another department and we tell them, you wait 3 months. We like, something that we could apply across the board where every new position stays open instead of being filled right away. Let's not let go of it. But we can't actually budget for that. I mean, we could make that, we can incorporate, of course, we have to work with HR and take in other considerations, but we could work on that as a policy that we let some positions just drift for a little bit, if we can. I know what it's like to have a position in your department drift too long. It's a real hole to dig out of after a while, so.
And if I may, some departments may end up with overtime situations because of the essential services.
And that's
I'm sure the police department is one of those.
For sure.
right.
Yeah.
So that's gonna cost us potentially, it's gonna be no savings there.
So we'll come down to town hall.
Somebody has to look at
Yeah.
this and really go down and give it a point scale and decide, okay, these are the ones that we could slow down. These are the ones we absolutely need to fill immediately, so move forward. And these we will take off the table short term.
Benefits manager,
Right.
we're hoping to replace somebody so we're actually paying someone.
We're paying,
So if we
we're
don't
paying
fill that,
higher.
we're gonna continue to pay
Yes.
a higher rate.
That's the
we're
problem.
paying higher
Yep.
than a new person would be.
Can I just ask a question about the COLA? I'm just a little bit concerned about that. That's what you're talking about, just so I'm clear. This is not future negotiated contracts that we're coming up on. This is current, what we're talking about. Yes?
The ones that
The
haven't been
Collins-
signed yet?
The Collins Center study increases that were built into the budget, have those been approved at a town meeting after the select board approved them? Is that what you're talking about?
so those we always did in the fall. I mean, we have it lately. I mean, the last few years we've done.
Union negotiations.
For whatever increases, we just showed it.
It was really, historically, it was non-union, which was a larger chunk than it is now because we've got more unions.
Right.
So it really, like back when David Dixon would put it off till fall, it was really just the non-union people, but it was a figure of like, maybe 35 to 50,000, as I remember, that he would put in the fall.
It was either if they had it done before here, it was
But this-
in here, and if it wasn't done before, then we just did more in the fall. We made adjustments.
So is the
So this
180 that's
this
in the
includes
budget?
the unions. That 180 is based on every salary line in the budget being added up and a
From the
percentage
Center study
applied.
or from the suggested increase that I did?
Center.
Just
The
wanna make sure
latter,
that we're
the
not,
suggested increase we did.
just wanna make sure that we're not pushing off contractually negotiated current raises that people are due, because that's illegal. We can't do that. We can push off current contracted negotiations that raises, we can pause them and deal with that as we move into the future. But if these have already been to select board, finance committee and town meeting.
Then I would think they would be already in your, that you have them in your.
That's where I thought you got the number from. I just wanted to make sure.
No, they're in your department.
Some, only the unions that we already had at the, that were settled in January.
Right.
The ones I think,
Some of those
the
are-
old, the former unions. Did you put your increases in your budget for police, DPW, police.
We're gonna have to figure out which ones.
Yes, well, for this purpose, took all the salaries and might include some of those, but we figured that would be weighed out by the fact that some might be.
Oh, they're all, yeah, that's how that works.
This one's gonna be an offset.
Okay.
So
So we need to look at that, I guess, to make sure before Wednesday night that this is an okay thing to do.
well, what are we voting on tonight in here? What?
The whole warrant, we're gonna go through each article right now.
Do we usually approve the ones that are non-financial?
No.
And there's
Well, no.
almost nothing in here that's financial. correct?
They're all, we approve them all except
CPAs.
for the
Okay.
planning department,
Okay,
planning.
all right. Is there,
So like we go through and we've been, our recommendations have been on everything but the planning pretty
Okay.
much.
so this kind of sprung at least to me, this is like totally new. Shardul's not here, hasn't seen this. I would like to see our committee with the feedback from treasurer and select board, what we can do here, because there's some legal issues. I'm hearing questions, concerns about legal. And we have to come up with a plan. I'm wondering, should we put off the budget side to Wednesday night, but it may be too late to put us on the public notice?
We're
or-
already
No,
on.
you're on it.
We're on
You're
it, so we're fine.
Wednesday
We're on
night.
for Wednesday night. Okay,
Right.
great.
Go. Yeah.
So if we put off that till then, and hopefully before that meeting, we can just get a little bit more clarification on what's possible. So we either say, yes, it's great, they found a way to do it, or no, we need to, take X amount out of,
Yeah, or it's only
Stabilization.
$79,000.
we're right, so redo that number. And then let's work our way through this so that that's the only thing left on there. Okay, does that make sense?
I'm-
For our committee?
Yeah, I mean, my concern is Wednesday night's gonna come and
Yes.
this isn't going to work to the extent that we might be hoping, and then where are we? But that's, I mean, what is plan B?
Exactly. This is
Right.
the whole
Yeah.
point of this is.
What you're talking about, Mike, you were saying if whether or not these positions were already promised within their contract negotiations? Is that
No,
what
no,
you're asking?
no, just the 180 part on the bottom here, that, the COLAs that.
Oh, okay, okay, I didn't know if that's what
Yeah.
you were requesting, if these were already.
No, I just wanted to make sure that it wasn't something that has already gone through
Uh-huh.
and people already have the raises, and I don't know how to parse that out. It's gonna take some time to figure out who was here previous and who wasn't,
Understand.
who was approved, by the town.
Now, when you're talking about kicking it down, the can down the road, you were saying for 3-4 months
Yeah,
of potentially of holding back any hiring of these positions, and then after in the fall, these.
I'm not,
a
just to
portion.
the summer.
Right, for the summer, but then after then, these positions could be potentially open for the second quarter.
And some of them are,
Potentially, could be,
I'm not saying everything.
right, no,
There's more here.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that this is the cut and dry, no, we're not hiring these positions.
Yeah, no.
It's just, waiting for 3 months
I mean,
with the
some of these-
budget and
Fill in
then
your
see,
fiscal year.
some of these we might not be able to fill even if we try.
right,
As we stand,
okay,
so.
that's.
Right, but we need to come up with 100, there's 450, you said 460,
No, 66.
yeah, I came up with 450, which is
I got
minor.
460.
So we're in a ballpark of 4.
All
right. All right,
Okay, all right. now we're-
but basically, we're looking at 140 that they have to find a way to save. So some of these, they get an applicant that comes in, for a police officer, and they go, we gotta hire that, they hire that. Somewhere between that and any other people who leave us between now and then, what you call a rolling vacancy essentially between all the departments. That the big nut is right now, assuming all the other numbers are correct, 140,000 vacancies at least.
So that's what these are. These are openings, job.
These are
Yeah,
open.
they're right
And
on.
tomorrow there could be a different opening.
Okay,
And
these
you
are
could
all openings on the website of whoever, okay.
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah, and they're just ballpark numbers.
okay,
that-
So no one, no layoffs.
There's no layoffs. These are just vacancies right now.
got it.
And we need 140,000, which is a lot less than this list, even with the estimates comes up to. And even if you buffered that a little bit, there might be tomorrow other people leaving for all kinds of different reasons, another job somewhere else, just decide not to work anymore, whatever. Okay, they're becoming an influencer on, on one of the social net,
So
whatever it is. And so I have no problem with town management, finding a way to do a rolling, buffer there. I think that might be the solution that we need there to leave you folks to make those decisions. But if we can come back on Wednesday night with, okay, this is what we digested, we were able to find a couple more things we could put off when we talk to people, and now the nut is this much, and that's all we need to do. I think we could all agree on, hopefully get a unanimous vote, and that's my hope, is that we can have a united front when we go in front of the voters, to tell them what we need them to do,
And,
for the town.
and if we, after everything, they still come up with like 90,000, 100,000, 120,000, 140,000, whatever, are we all agreeing that it's okay for that to come from stabilization
I guess
versus the 550,000?
I'd like to know that.
That's,
think we
That's a
need to
great
know that,
question,
I'm good with that.
I'm good with that.
I mean, it's.
Yeah, but when does the line stop? How far do you keep that number saying, oh, we were saying 130, it's only 180. Then after, you gotta set a, if that was gonna be, set a number. And that's it.
Not more than 150%.
150,000?
150% of the number we're looking for.
200.
So if it's 140,000, it can't be more than 210.
So, I mean, I don't, I understand what Peter's saying, but I don't think that there's any question that there's a lot of digging that's already been done, right? I mean, and so, I mean, I'm just worried about setting an arbitrary number. I don't think people aren't going to not look at something because they think there's more wiggle room, right?
Right.
I think everybody's trying to do the right thing here. And
I don't
think
care the
based on
amount.
this discussion.
It's less than
Well,
550,000.
to that end, if you don't care about the amount. Then then you could just support the budget as it's presented. And I know that that's not what the finance committee, or at least what I'm hearing, wants to do. But ultimately, it's 500 and some odd $1,000 from stabilization, with the hopes of the stabilization part passing, and then a potential override, part of which will go directly to stabilization, and will also go to build your capital account and build your maintenance account and things like that, and really start to put some money away. So I would just caution you to go, going down that road, because I agree with you. But at
Yeah.
the same time, I think there are other ways to skin the cat here, and I like this plan,
Mhm.
because of the risk.
But this was assuming that an override didn't pass.
No, this is
This
assuming
is-
if
this is
it's-
for the budget.
This is just to
It
get
has
us
nothing to do with any overrides.
And if the override doesn't pass, then we gotta go further than this.
Right.
Is really the point. So
Way,
why
way,
hire
way
these people
further.
way further?
Way first.
So why like to Amy's point, why hire these people if you're gonna have to lay them off, right? That's what so, but, ultimately, like I said, the budget as presented, when Linda and I went through this, and to Molly's point, we really went at the expenses in all of these budgets. The only thing we didn't touch was wages, because we didn't want to lay anybody off. So we really went at them. And in the back of our minds was, we needed an influx of cash to get through this. So that's why we presented it the way that we did. The stabilization request is to buy time to get to these points, knowing that the promise is actually this time to be able to pay it back. Don't forget, we've been covering the fire department year after year, or, ambulance, town meeting after town meeting out of this account, and we're down $1 million. We have to explain that. We're gonna have to stand up and explain that at town meeting as to why now we're likely not gonna be able to pay that back, because they were told that this is an investment and we're gonna pay that back. So, like I said, I love the fact that you said it, because I do agree with you. We wrote the budget, I presented the budget, this is what I feel we should do, so I agree with you, but at the same time, I'm good with this, I can do this, we can do this for you. But just need direction.
Well, is it worth it? I mean, hold on, that came out. That came out.
Stop reversing. Yes.
No, like, I don't mean it, like, no, I appreciate this, but like, I know how much work has gone into this. And if we kind of like switch it up, like now, but this is really more in my head. I'm like, oh, it's more of like a contingency, because 2.5 passes, then that money goes right back into stabilization.
Yeah, I mean, the goal would be to be able to give every department no new positions, but get them back to even, while also creating 2 accounts that we've never had before to be able to pay for things for capital in cash and be able to maintain our buildings, which will increase by 2.5 annually. And then also put a good chunk of that money in stabilization, which will also increase by 2.5 annually. That's the idea. That's what we're aiming for at the SSTM of Summit.
Brandon?
So I appreciate the thoughts of having these new funds for, adding to the stabilization, having capital accounts, et cetera, et cetera. You're talking about having an override that would start funding them. How are we going to continue to fund them? I don't see any way that we're going to do that unless we get some really incredible influx into our revenues in the very short term, because I just see this happening town meeting after town meeting after town meeting, unless we get some new revenue streams.
So Randy, the override would be a permanent override, and it would continue the revenue stream annually, and we would put an article in place specifically to ensure that X amount of dollars of that override go into those 3 accounts so that they continue to be replenished.
Okay.
Rest of it would need to be used for the operational budget, and then after 1 year, you can put it wherever you like. Which, would still probably have to go to operations because everything increases, but that's really the goal, and that's how we would put it. And then, like I said, your normal 2.5 override that this town has locked in will go on top of the additional, the operational override, and we'll continue to build those accounts by 2.5. So it's not a one-time thing.
Okay, I understand what you're saying. Now, another question. I keep hearing special town meeting, and this is the first I'm hearing of this. What are you talking about?
So the select board and the finance committee are going to vote on the annual town meeting budget. The annual town meeting budget is balanced with the exception of covering the ambulance costs. The FY 26 budget has been reduced by Linda and I enough that we are very concerned we will not make it all the way through FY 26 with a balanced budget. So we began discussing other ways to approach this, one of which is a potential override. We have 30 plus articles on our annual town meeting agenda, and it's in 2 weeks. So putting an override and a DPW building possibly on the same agenda with 30 other articles we think is a horrible idea. Or at least I think is, I'll speak for myself, I think is a horrible idea. It will not give it the time needed for people to discuss. It won't give us enough time to explain to the town what the plan is and how we intend on getting there. So we require another town meeting. We already have a special town meeting in October. However, we can't ask for an override in October because if it fails, we are already within the FY 26 budget, and it will require us to make some significant reductions with zero time to prepare for it. So if we plan to have a potential special town meeting at some point in the summer where we solely discuss an override and people can ask all the questions they want, we think that'll give it the best chance to pass, number one. And number two, if it passes, we can make the budget adjustments at the October special town meeting and we're good to go. And if it fails, it gives us time to go back into the budget and make some of the very hard decisions that we're going to have to make before we get into October. So we need another town meeting and a ballot vote on the override that is outside of our two regular town meetings.
Thanks for that explanation. I mean, I've certainly heard rumors about it. Is there a potential date? I mean, if you're gonna need time to get a ballot in before October.
Yep.
And there's what, a 90-day lead time on that, or is it?
So you have
60
to have your ballot vote within 45 days
Okay,
of your town meeting. So we are super cursory in this, as we stand, because we just haven't gotten a lot of direction from whether or not this is even appealing to Finance Committee and Select Board, but we're looking at in order for everything to fall appropriately and give us enough time to do it, we're looking at potentially end of August for a special town meeting, early September, and then, a ballot vote inside of 45 days, probably less than that, just to get it done. It just has to be inside of 45 days. It could be the next day if we wanted it to be, I guess, but that's ultimately what we're talking about. And if we get the results back, like I said, we need to know one way or the other, and we need to have time. And even with that timeline, that gives us about a month or so to make whatever adjustments are necessary.
all right, well, thanks. A couple of comments on that. I mean, if this is something that we're looking at, why can't we get it on the calendar for the front part of the summer versus the back end? I mean, speaking from somebody who's on the DPW committee, certainly having direction there. Whether one way or another, you wait till the end of the summer, you will have missed out on any opportunity for this calendar year. If there was movement forward, or at least shelving it, or advancing it one way or the other. Better to have that decision, in June. I mean, we know that other localities around here have multiple day town meetings where they schedule it over, and I'm not saying that I want to start getting in there, but that's what happens. That's what happens when you have 30 some odd articles on the warrant. Logistically, you have to deal with that. And I guess the last question I would have is, I'm sure it's high level, but what are we looking at a potential annual hit to the average household?
That all depends on the number that is decided, so.
Yeah, and what we're doing, and the reason that, tonight and then Wednesday, the assumption was this topic was gonna come up because of what we're talking about here. But part of the reason to buy time is a surefire way to make sure that an override fails in Hadley is to not give people sufficient time and sufficient opportunity for discussion and fact finding and all of that. I don't know what the magic date is, but just conversationally, we don't even know what the nut is yet to propose. So Linda's working on, and with Mike working on some forecasting to just take a look to say what our situation would look like. And then that will help us kind of back into, I think, a number for us to all be talking about. And then once the finance committee and the select board have some sort of alignment on that, then we can start putting together public informational material so that people have time to digest it, knowing it's summer, school's gonna get out, people are going on vacation, you know, it's.
And
Yeah.
you're also talking about 4 different bins I've counted so far. You've got operational, and this override would cover, operational, shortfall, I heard building. I heard
Maintenance.
capital.
Capital and then regular stabilization.
regular
yeah,
stabilization.
There's
operation.
different ways to do that.
Yeah.
And again, we're just all kind of
Yeah.
learning ourselves right now.
I-
because we've
I-
never done one.
Yeah, I'm sorry for saying it as if these things have been decided. These are just things that we've kind of spitballed in our finance team meetings. Amy's been a part of them. Shardul and Paul have taken turns and it's come up. So it's nothing that's been decided. It's just, what we're kind of aiming for. And yes, 4 different bins, but I guess what I would say is look at it as 2. One for the operations to get all departments back to head above water, and the other one savings. Just think of it as that, savings and maintenance. That's just, I think that was Paul's suggestion in one of the meetings, which is, if we're gonna do this, let's figure out a way to get our savings, our reserves back to where they were so that
We
if
don't
we
have to
need
talk
them,
about it
we don't
again.
have to talk about it anymore.
We don't want this to be an annual event.
Yeah, because that's what everybody's gonna be worried about. You're coming back now, well, what's to say we vote on this, you don't come back again next year and the year after that, because quite frankly, some of our neighboring communities.
Yep.
Have
But once you
gotten
take,
in trouble that way.
understand, of course, once you make a big jump forward in an override like that, you don't get it back. I mean, to Randy's question earlier, it is there in the budget year on, and then it's 2.5 on top of that. So, you're looking at that first year, it's whatever we decide to go up, plus 2.5, and then that whole mess compounding, so on and so forth. Certainly a way to get us out of the problems that we're in, but I think that, certainly we have to fully understand the scope and how it's gonna affect people.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons why there was just no way we were. Even if we had one article on the May town meeting, it was just too soon to bring these things up.
When it comes to stuff like that, you think about, okay, 1 year, 2 year, and this happened, like James was saying, within COVID, all of a sudden things started spending. I'm concerned about, okay, there's so much money in the bank, and like you're saying, paying things for free. And what's gonna stop us from getting into that same trouble from 3 or 4 years ago because of all the money that we've had? Look how much we have, let's do all the spending, and it just rolls over again. That would be a lot of my concern is, hey, I got all this money, you're a little kid, you have all this candy, instead of going it down, you're gonna eat it all, well, then you want some more. And you do it again. When's the discipline, or how's the discipline gonna go? To say, okay, we got into this trouble. What or who is gonna stop us from letting this happen to us again?
Well, the finance committee still exists, right? I mean,
But
so,
we don't do the spending, we just do the actual advising what to spend and what not to spend.
but I'm just saying, so the
Right.
same structure would be in place, right? And I think, again, if, as a taxpayer, if somebody's coming and saying, hey, we want to do an override, one of the first questions is gonna be, what are you planning on spending it on, right? So again, in the
And
spirit.
how much more is my taxes are gonna be because of
course.
this? That's the
That's
biggest
the
thing. What's
biggest
the
question.
biggest jump on?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
well,
but
that's
I think
what-
we have to have an answer. We have to have a multi-year plan, which is something that Hadley hasn't been great about doing. So no pressure, Linda, and your finance director, all right?
Just started.
Yeah. Yeah, but that's critical.
And the other thing, I guess what I can say to hopefully make you feel a little bit better is that both Linda and I are in agreement that even if we are gonna go down this road for an override, I'll speak for myself, but I think we're on the same page that none of the amount that we are aiming for, and not as Molly put it, It's not gonna include new positions. It's not gonna include additionals that people asked for in this year's budget that you saw. You know, you saw a lot of people asking for more positions, more hours, things like that. We are looking to get us back to operational security. The amount of money that we cut from people's budgets this year is probably somewhere around what we're looking to just put back in. So we're not looking for I know the concern, you know, Amy and I have had this conversation before. You know, she's been on the finance committee and been chair for almost a decade now. And in her experience, and it's accurate, every time we give a department more money, all they do is just figure out a way to spend it.
Exactly, then it's like, oh, we gotta ask for more because
Exactly.
there's no policing, there's no discipline.
And so I think we've been having a lot of conversations, and I know I'm not gonna be in this position for much longer, but hopefully the person who takes over from me is on the same page, and the philosophy of how to handle budgets is changing. We'd like to change it. And we'd like to change it to a way that we have seen has worked in other communities. And instead of a ask and ye shall receive philosophy, we'd like to change it more to a, this is what you're getting. Make do. Do what you gotta do with it. And if you wanna argue for an added position or added hours, we can have those conversations. But this is how we're gonna approach budgets from now on. I'd like to get that changed before I leave this role. Because I think that would be a stopgap measure. That's your policing right there, where the finance director says, this is how much money we have, and the town administrator or town manager, whoever you have agrees, this is how much money you have for your department, figure it out. As opposed to what it is now, which is, if I need this, and this, and, you know, okay, so we'll take it from over here and we'll move it over there, but that's just not the way that it should be working. So I'm hoping that that's kind of where we're headed, to put those, I don't want to call them roadblocks, but
Right,
to put those securities in place.
I think we got started on that this year.
Yeah.
By giving the department heads the responsibility to find this is really, you know, they make their request and we had them do 2 levels of request. One is that with the new positions that they wanted, new programs, but the other one to stay within their current operations. And then when we couldn't even meet that, instead of going through it line by line, and this is a little bit, different than it's been, instead of going line by line, just say, where would you take 20,000 from out of your budget? So next year we'll move that along, probably even more, and we'll start with the revenues and some of the fixed expenses and say, this is what we've got. Everybody gets a little bit of this, and here's the extra that we have, and determine what the largest needs are across the board. And that would, with the follow-up input from finance committee and select board. We'll see, but we need to have something to work with first. I mean, and that would be nice if we have that extra bit of money. And doesn't mean that we spend it all. And I think, which is one reason we want to definitely incorporate capital and maintenance into when we're looking for money, that there's that it's going into those areas, those pockets of savings that will not be spent, rather than putting it all into the operations. And then that's just going to burst the seams in the next couple of years. We're going to spend a limited amount on actual operations.
Unless, I wasn't too sure, you're saying after money is put in, then after a year later, you can move it?
So when you do an
That's not be worried about, it's like, oh, where do you move it to? And then
so
it goes
so-
like this again.
No, so that's the
Right.
thing. So when I say move it, I guess what I mean, just to simplify it. Let's just say we did an override just to cover the fire department. $555,000 to cover the ambulance service. If you did an override just for that, you only need to put the override money into that specific spot 1 fiscal year. And if it's a permanent override and it stays, that money continues to come in. You don't have to continue to put it into the fire department. So what I mean is that it will go to operations. We will make suggestions as to put it into the places that we know are short, but it doesn't have to be that exact spot every single year. If you have, massive turnover in your fire department or something along those lines, after 1 year, you can move the money as you see fit. As finance and select board, it doesn't have to be in the same spots, I guess is what I'm trying to explain.
Well, right, and in your example though, if you do that one time, permanent, override, then the cost of that department can only increase as much as 2.5%, or you're falling behind, because you're only gonna keep up with that 2.5%.
But the override has brought them up to where they should be to function in the current atmosphere.
Right, but I
Instead
mean,
of where they were.
You wanna,
Then he just stays there.
and,
That's what I'm hearing.
And the other concern I have, of course, is that, sometimes these capital savings accounts are the first places that get raided. And so whatever safeguards we can,
Super. yeah.
guardrails to
Right.
put up to make sure that that does
Absolutely.
not
Right.
happen.
Good point. Yeah, that's why we're gonna do it as an article. We've already, we can reach out to legal and figure out exactly how to write it so that it goes in appropriately. And if the override is approved, that's how it will be, and you will not be able to rate it. Amy brought that up almost immediately, and it's happened. We've actually done it. Several times where we like, oh my goodness, what a great idea, let's do this, and then we put some money in and then immediately take it right back out again, because we need it somewhere
2-3
else.
years.
But keep in mind that those decisions that we've done in the past have kept our taxes lower. And now we're paying the price for that. That's why we've rated those funds before. And what we're trying to do now is create a new script, financial script for us to follow that is going to prevent us from getting into this wedge that we're in right now. Now, it doesn't mean that in 10 years, we're not going to see eggs costing, $10,000 a thing, and all the other things that we buy being quadrupled right now. So yeah, in 10 years, we might have to come back and go, wow, world's still upside down. We did the best we could. But what we're trying to do is build up capital accounts so that when we have a major capital item, we may be able to pay for cash. We may be able to just stop borrowing. Instead of borrowing $20 million or $10 million for a tank, we might be able to grab some of the money from that account to lower what we're borrowing. Okay, and the same thing with maintenance. We will create money that will be used to fix things like doors and handles and floors and all the things in the buildings that we currently own. We're gonna start taking care of them better.
Honestly, that's my favorite one.
Yeah.
I in the position I'm in now.
I hope you
do
put
it.
enough money in that for maintenance contracts.
That's the intent.
That's
That's the intent, and that can be, that's a decision as a department heads and the select board.
That's different.
Well, I mean, when if you have to re-engineer the HVAC over at
Right,
town hall, somebody's got to make that design, because, if you can't go out and get a realistic bid without.
Right.
all right, well,
So coming back to,
why we're here tonight.
why, yeah, I just.
But I was just gonna say,
So I think that we're, this is good conversation, I mean, but I think Mike and Linda are just looking for specific direction, so I'm gonna paraphrase what I think. Is that we're in the spirit of what Amy presented. But knowing what you know about some of these positions, et cetera, that what we're asking is to just go back, take a look at any possibility of deferring pay increases and deferring hiring timelines for vacancies and see what that number might look like.
Deferring until September
I mean, we
or
have
until the override.
Plan A, which
Yeah.
we can vote on Wednesday, which is what's you presented. I'm asking you to do a
Modified.
Plan B,
modified by this.
because like I said, I am not happy with the stabilization, so I'm
Got it.
asking you to see what you can do for Plan B.
Understood.
Okay, is that,
Yes.
That's
So
okay.
I see, yeah. We've got 4 steps here. As presented, we're using 552,906 out of stabilization. I'm hearing a general no in this crowd.
we'd all like a smaller number if possible, right?
When we reduce the ambulance budget to all but the regular salaries, it comes down to 320,304, a use of stabilization. absent any other sources, I'm gonna just stick to stabilization. I don't know if it's as universal on that in using the stabilization fund, so I don't know whether you want to give us that information. Then you take the 180,000 out, as Amy suggested, already kind of on the, take out the extra percentage that was built in for raises. Now we're down to the third step, which is 140,304 out of stabilization. And that level, I'm feeling like it sounds like the consensus is more in favor than not. And then the fourth level is get rid of that 140,000 too by seeing what you can do over on this.
If you have another idea, and if you have another idea besides this, I'm all for it, but that was my
If we
idea.
could do this revolve, yeah, we'll work
Okay.
out something
So,
fancier.
Okay.
What'd you call it,
Uh,
rotating?
Rotating,
Rotating.
rolling,
Rolling, that's.
okay,
Rolling.
yes, Randy,
So I hear what everybody's saying about this temporary hiring freeze. But let's say in the next 2 weeks, 2 months, whatever, we get 3 people that decide they don't want to work for the DPW anymore. And are you saying that we will not be able to rehire anybody until 3 months down the road? Am I hearing this correctly?
No, we're just looking to
That's
save
their
hundred and
salaries.
40,000.
It's 140,000 and the totals that based on the estimates that Amy had put together for the positions was over 460,000. So we're looking to get 140 out of that. And you know, that doesn't represent any current positions either.
So it sure sounded like if somebody left tomorrow, we weren't going to rehire that position for 3 months.
That could be, Randy, because that position would be on this list at that point. And Linda and I are gonna work with HR to try to figure out what we can,
Priorities.
priorities. So yes, if someone were to quit tomorrow, they would go on the list for us to analyze. It doesn't necessarily mean that that specific position would not be filled, but it would be a possibility.
All right, thank you.
I just have to caveat that it would not include, I see a wastewater position and
Yeah,
it would
can't
only be
include-
general funded.
Right.
Funding sources, yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay,
Are we good on
Yes,
so we're
this discussion?
So I think we're going to, for that article, that would be article number 9, we are going to be holding off on
delay
that
that
for
till
Wednesday.
Wednesday.
So now we'll have to, start down some of these articles. And some of them are just housekeeping articles, so we could probably go fast. And some of them, and Jennifer's here to take all the votes,
I actually,
right?
I'm here to prevent Zoom bombing and take the vote.
Oh, there you go. All right, so if I could just get started, that's, okay.
Are you starting at the top?
Well, yep, there's nothing to really vote for the annual, number 1, annual town election. We don't really vote for that. That's just listing what's open. So we're gonna go down to number 2. The grants,
Consent
It's a
agenda?
consent agenda.
consent agenda.
But you always vote on them in case they get pulled.
Okay,
Okay,
we'll just go through them all fast. So
Right.
we do the grants every single year. It allows the select board to apply for grants. Do I have a motion?
motion to approve Article 2, or to support Article 2.
Okay, motion from Paul. Second?
Second.
Second by Andy. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Chapter 90 money, to see if the, let's see, that is to, that's to receive chapter 90 money. Do I have a motion?
Motion to recommend.
By Paul,
Second.
second by Peter, all in favor? Aye. Short-term borrowing,
Motion to recommend.
okay? Paul, Andy, second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, contracts in excess of 3 years.
Motion to recommend Article 5.
Second.
Okay, motion by Paul, second by Andy, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Article 6, I'll make a motion to recommend Article 6. Transfer $150,000 water reserves for the water plant filtration stabilization fund. One of the things we are doing in a forward motion.
Mhm.
Yes.
Good for us. That's
Yeah.
one anyway.
Oh. Motion by Paul. All right,
Vote,
all in favor?
yeah.
Aye.
So this one that's here, we just had it come in. It's gonna be for, I think about $100 for the prior year invoice. There is one that's coming in though.
There's
Do you
one
want us to
coming in.
wait?
Will we
You want
have,
us to-
will we have this for Wednesday?
You'll have it for
Yes.
Wednesday.
Let's
Okay,
wait
so
till
this
Wednesday.
will do Wednesday. Article 7, we will vote on Wednesday.
Okay.
Article 8,
I can give a quick rundown of that one. This is a neutral amendment to the budgets. The current FY 25 budget. We are moving money around. But this is the one that is going to give us that 160,376 in back in free cash to apply to the budget in the next article. So we are cut the OPEB and a program out of the treasurer's budget. And then the only other items on the amendment are moving $153,000 out of the select board budget and allocating it to the salaries and all of the other departments as per the raises that were approved in the fall.
so just to double check, so you said, I know we had the OPEB was 190 to start with.
Mhm.
Your treasurers, wasn't that 25,000?
27,000.
27,000?
I'm sorry, 25,376 is coming out of the treasurer budget and 190,000 is coming out of OPEB.
Then what did we spend the money on between those?
What did,
Because didn't you say did I get the numbers wrong? 190 was OPEB,
right,
27,000,
25,376
25,000.
was the program.
and we are moving 160. Right?
Oh,
Said what?
because 55,000 of the OPEB is going back into stabilization.
That's it. 55 was stabilization.
Yeah.
Okay.
We also have, there will be money moved out from opioid. Police is not getting their person hired this year, so we have to move that. We're reducing the police budget by 40,000. It will go back into the opioid funding. We don't want to lose that. And also same thing with Board of Health. They did not get that contract underway, so the opioid funding will that budget will be reduced and opioid funding will be reimbursed. So we'll have it to spend next time. So
Just a question. We've already taken the 55 out of stabilization.
we allocated, but we are not going to take it out.
Oh, we have not taken it out.
No.
Okay, thank you. Thanks.
And
Never
the
mind.
total on all this.
That's
is-
why
Well, it's not going back in. We never took it out.
yeah, right. So
Thank you.
we're now, this is a stop order.
If we took it out already, I'm like, why don't we think about just moving the whole thing over? But we never took it.
Yeah.
Okay,
This is which article though, is 8?
that's 8.
Yes.
That's 8, yeah.
Yes,
Okay, I'll recommend,
And the
we,
total on that was 163.
the total of that is a zero because we're taking, let's see. It's, the total is actually negative 242,876.
all right, I'll make a motion that we recommend Article 8.
Second.
Motion by Paul, seconded by Peter. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And the 8.2, the enterprise portion of it is we're reducing, it was an error in documents that were sent to us for the bond payments. The sewer debt and interest comes down by $5,000. So the total of this budget is negative 5,000 and the 5,000 will be returned to sewer reserves.
And then the handouts.
Will be the sewer reserves is what you're.
It will be the
Nice.
sewer reserves.
They'll be, that's why.
Exactly right.
I actually. put it
Oh, boy, I
into
feel
one.
so much better.
If you don't laugh, you're gonna cry.
I know.
That'll be helpful.
That way-
Where's Roto Rooter when you need him? And that was not an endorsement. There are lots of companies that can do that work. So.
And this will be a handout, and I'll have them for you on Wednesday night. There's just a couple things I want to check with Board of Health in particular. It'll be a handout for Wednesday night, and for town meeting showing all of the movements in the funding. One page similar to what we used at special town meetings in the fall.
There's the chocolates around. I think they need
Oh.
them. They never hit. Doesn't hit this table.
Do we want to, hold off on 8.2 until we, have the numbers?
No.
No, no.
8.2 is $5,000.
Negative 5,000, that's fine.
Okay.
Okay,
No, we need the reserves
Absolutely.
quickly.
no, I just was
Yeah.
double checking. I didn't see what that was.
Will be.
Okay. All right, so do I have a motion on 8.2?
Well, I guess I did, I did it as 8 before, so should we have
You
corrected?
did, yeah, that's fine.
Is
You
that,
did.
does that cover them both?
Yeah, I
I
think
think it's fine to do it
it's
that
fine.
way.
Okay.
Okay,
If you need to, we could do it over.
all right.
Okay.
Article 9 is Wednesday.
We're holding off, yeah.
Mhm.
I don't really foresee it affecting too much Article 10. Unless anybody else sees the enterprise funds being more connected, or do you think so, Linda, that you're gonna need to look at that a little bit more?
There's
Well,
a significant.
But if you're looking, I mean, it seems like you might want to hold off just if you're looking across.
Okay, or just
Hold on,
close?
hold on.
Okay,
Yeah, that makes sense.
Good point.
do Wednesday. Okay, this is a nice, easy one, Article 11.
Please.
Yes, I recommend, motion to recommend Article 11, local options meals. Second.
Okay, motion by Paul, second by Peter. All in favor? Aye. Yeah.
Problems.
Okay, Article 12.
I'll make a motion to recommend Article 12, local option rooms tax.
Motion by Paul, second by Peter.
Second.
Okay. All in favor? Aye.
Oh, saying yes.
I'm sorry, yes, that was a yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm sorry. All right, I'm gonna let somebody else do Article 13.
Oh.
Mixed feelings about that one. Having just paid them. Hey, I've been contributing.
It's a state, I'm sorry, I'm playing catch up here on this.
Okay.
What's the background on this?
The local option exercise or
This is,
exercise.
it's the state, these are all state bills. These are all state bills to allow local increases in the taxes on room tax, and the other one we voted on was meals. And now there's also an option for
Motor vehicle.
a motor vehicle
And,
for a 5% surcharge
And that. on the
and these are
fund
revenues that would go into our general fund.
Fund stay local.
on the
Excise.
excise tax. So
On
if
the
you-
excise tax.
So if
Thank
you own an old car or a new car, you get, based on what it's valued at, you get a bill. You own
Okay.
vehicles for your business, and this could add 5% to that annual tax.
So
And it would
vehicle
stay intact.
charge could be how much you pay for a new vehicle, and it doesn't say
Yeah,
excise
there's
in here, and
a lot
I
of
think that will
versions to it,
confuse
right?
people.
It does,
I can see this one.
it does say,
And
well.
it's
local
that's
motor
the-
vehicles.
That language is from the attorney.
Yeah.
This has already been through attorney's review.
Well, somebody should be ready
You're
to
three.
speak and say that means excise.
I'll make a note.
It's not gonna be a ton of money anyway.
Yeah.
There's 43,000, I think they said.
Take every penny if you want to give it to us, but.
I mean, I wish what my car was excised as what I could get in for trade-in value, but that's not the case, not even close.
Where are we at here? We need a-
Sorry, looking for a motion to see if anybody.
Don't you have to leave it nice, even if you're gonna vote against it?
Yeah, you need a motion.
Or you can say I would make a motion to,
Discuss.
or not to approve.
We can
I'm
make a
fine.
motion to recommend and then vote against it.
So one question I have, if the state passes it and we haven't recommended it, does that cut us out of that?
Yes.
Forever? Or can we go back?
No, I would be able to come back.
Future.
All three of these are, basically pending approval from the state. So if you didn't wanna, exercise your option on the third one, even if the state approves it, you are not. You're not tied to it. The first two, if select board goes 5-0-0, and you go 4-0-0, and town meeting votes it, and it gets approved, you're good. Go against the last one, or remove it altogether if you want.
Where
Well,
I
I see
had is
the-
it was not
certainly
gonna
the
pass at
local-
the state level
the-
either, but.
When we
Least
first
arguments.
started with the local meals tax, I mean, that was something that we figured would, you know, it's gonna hit you a little bit if you're eating
You're
in
eating
town,
out.
but it's really gonna be bringing the revenue from the visitors. This one, the last one here is one where, you know, you.
Residents.
It's just residents, and I feel
Right.
bad for the folks who are on fixed incomes and, you know.
Yeah.
I know it's 5% of a bill, but.
Not to mention everything else that we're talking
We're
about.
asking other things of them this year.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to recommend that we, rather that we do not recommend Article 13.
Do you have to make a motion to vote on the
So
article?
why don't we make
And
a
then
motion
To vote
to,
on it.
how would you like to see it, Jennifer?
I
You're
would-
writing it up.
I would love it if y'all would just make a motion to recommend and then vote against it.
Okay,
Because that way.
Oh, I see, okay, so
it's
I'll make a motion to recommend Article 13.
okay. I have a motion and a second.
Second.
No, you just said.
You can, yeah,
We're gonna vote.
we're gonna
Okay.
say, then you second it, then we're gonna vote, you can vote against it.
Okay,
Okay.
okay. Just wanted
Okay.
to make sure.
Yeah, no,
Alright.
we just need to get it on the ballot, so now it's on the ballot.
Motion by Paul, second by Peter. All in favor of approval? All in favor for a decline?
All opposed?
All
Opposed.
There you go,
All opposed, so.
Thank
yeah.
you. That'll make it.
no
easier.
problem.
Everyone opposes it.
I'm
Does
sorry,
it
I'm
not
scared.
get put on the warrant?
No, it's a select board,
No,
their
These are
finance.
just our
No, these are
recommendations.
just recommendations, so
Okay.
the town can write it away.
So
So-
voters say,
Still
why
want
didn't
to
the
know.
finance committee want this if you're looking for money?
And the finance committee can stand up
Yep.
and discuss it.
Yeah, when you say we have another plan that's more productive for the town, when we come up with it, and in the longer term.
And I'm noticing there's no page numbers on here, so I apologize and I will correct that for the big night. But you'll need to flip to Article 11. I've put planning board in the middle as recommended or as asked. So Article 11.
Not 11.
Almost appeals.
11 has the meals.
We did that already.
You're not, 18, sorry, Article 18. Which
Oh,
shows
it
the
does.
CPA. I see it. I got it.
Oh, there is a misnumbering after that.
Yep, I got
Oh,
it.
the page flip.
Yeah.
You said it, Frank, it was on something the other night, I noticed.
Yeah, we have.
Somebody.
Yeah. We need to revisit article numbers.
Oh, I see.
So 11 is, here we go. It's a CPA consent agenda.
Are we going to Article 18?
No,
You're going to Community Preservation Act Committee Consent Agenda.
What number?
Well,
Article
I
11.
messed up on it. It says Article 11, but it's
It's
technically.
at the very
Article
bottom of the page.
11, so.
Oh.
Yeah, it's got the wrong number.
Oh.
Yeah, so past 18.
That's the way I've always counted.
Right,
Article 11.
Yeah, you gotta put it on the other way.
I thought we were
Oh,
gonna.
two Article 11s.
Oh, there's two Article 11s.
It is in order for the meeting. It's one member.
It's several pages. It's in any board section.
Okay, there's, no, it'll be 18. It's just in the
Okay.
order. Cause I
What's the whole thing read?
Okay, is that one?
I had all the planning board stuff at the end, but then
Municipal
y'all asked me to
tax
move
payment?
it and I missed the number when I was
What is that
remembering.
about?
But it'll be completely
That has
clean
nothing to do with
Wednesday night.
cash, money coming to the town.
You guys vote on CPA ones?
We
Yeah,
vote on
the
CPA.
CPA, this is just allocated
Tax
to the different
payment
things.
agreement bylaw. I just don't, when I saw tax payment, municipal tax payment, it's a bylaw, but what is that municipal tax payment?
Sorry, where are you?
Asian.
Oh.
Planning.
The municipal tax payment agreement bylaw. This is something that Linda already does. This is just codifying something that Linda already does.
Oh, this is, yeah,
This is, I'm sorry, the back and forth and back and
Yeah.
forth. I'm sorry.
payment plans.
So we're
It's the
going,
payment plans that are already in
Tax
place
title.
and town council recommended that we add this into the agenda to codify what we already do.
Okay, so, tell me what you already do.
Actually, I read it through I forgot this was on here. Yeah, so we make payment plans with, people who owe us taxes,
Okay.
once they go into tax title. This does say up to 5 years,
Okay,
I don't think we have any over 5 years.
well, I think that's that's a great thing. It's a payment plan and,
Yes,
and it's just putting that on you to
Yeah.
make those agreements for payment.
right,
plan.
and I think that they've set up what the down payment has to be and how long, then the term and interest rates and stuff like that. So this is statutory, but yes,
Yeah.
so it's not really going to affect them. Exactly,
So I think we should vote on this because that
Yes.
is something to do,
Sounds
it's like
good.
just no different
So
than
that's-
some of the other
Sounds
stuff
good.
we did.
This is
Why
gonna be
isn't
Article
that under
17 now.
consent?
Why is it under consent?
yes, it is.
Right.
It could be a controversial item.
Really? It's something we're already doing. Now, how's that controversial?
This is, it's not under consent.
I don't know, can a
Because
bylaw
it's there.
change be on consent agenda?
I don't
Yeah.
think it can.
Yeah.
And it wasn't, I mean, the town council's seen this repeatedly, so if they had thought it fit there, they would have already recommended it, but I don't think it can go in there.
All right, do we have a motion on this one?
Which one are we on?
18.
Sorry, lost.
17.
17, we're doing municipal tax
Municipal
payments.
Tax payment
17.
agreements
Oh,
That's what I
bylaw.
thought we were on,
It actually is, yes,
Municipal
Okay.
tax
it
payment.
says 18.
Sorry,
but it's gonna be 17,
okay,
right?
okay,
Because we're using,
it's,
we're
let's
going
just say
metric.
municipal tax
There you go.
payment agreement by law.
Okay, ready?
All right,
Celsius
motion,
or?
motion by
I'm-
I'll make a
Paul,
motion that we
Second.
recommend Article
Motion and a
17,
second.
and I'm gonna say it here, municipal tax payment agreement bylaw.
and a second by Andy, all in favor?
Aye,
All right.
all right, now we have 18 we have to do?
And I am very sorry that's like that.
Very good. I'm so finished.
CPA,
Yes,
Okay.
Okay, Article 17 is consent. I'll make a motion that we recommend Article 18, Community Preservation Act Committee consent agenda.
oh, that's just.
Kind of like the highway exercise here, you know,
Yep,
formerly known as, yeah.
and that would also include 18 and 19.
Oh,
Is
you
that
want,
the consent agenda?
yeah, do you want to do them together or?
Yeah,
All
sure.
right, so 18 and,
you wanted us to.
scratch my other motion.
She wants us to do them separate.
Separately?
Do them separately, okay.
Okay, so we got a motion on the floor. Somebody going to, on number 18?
I'll second.
All
Good.
right, motion in a second, all in favor?
Aye. All right,
Okay,
I'll make a motion to recommend Article 19, CPA
motion
extensions,
and a
consent agenda.
second by Andy.
All in favor?
Aye. Okay.
All right,
Now here we go.
Eden Mortgage,
Now we're going down to, yep,
we're still, okay,
20.
20.
So the CPA, just so you'll know, the CPA has already approved all of these.
Okay, that's
Eight,
helpful.
800.
okay.
On all of them, 800 on
I believe
everything.
so, Andy.
And Andy's on.
That's right,
This is-
Andy can speak to them all.
He could, although this was, happened to be the meeting where Shardul
Yeah,
did
right.
cover for me because I had a family emergency.
Okay,
Okay,
So, yeah, anyway,
all right, well, I'll make them, you wanna go or you wanna tell them? 20 or can we just get a motion?
go ahead.
All right, I'll make a motion that we recommend Article 20 CPA Preservation 17th Century Hadley Deed and Mortgage.
Second.
okay. All in favor? Aye.
And the,
Okay.
Article 21 is the fencing over on top of,
Oh, okay.
yeah, over by the cemetery that's off of Cemetery Road to the north side. And they've already taken the fencing down because of planting season coming up. One way or another, that fence that was there was just a mess. So, hopefully this would pass and they'll be able to replace it, but in the meantime, that's all.
All right.
Well, let's not all see the same hands, you know.
Do I have a motion?
Go ahead.
Yeah, sure. I motion that we accept Article 21 as written.
Okay, motion by Andy,
I'll
second by Paul. All in favor? Aye.
Article 22 is the CPA North Haven Town Bell. The plan is to this is the preservation, yeah, this is the, yeah, this is to put together a display enclosure similar to what was done in front of Hopkins. The bell that was it up at the North Hadley Town Hall. It's a little smaller scale. The display is smaller and be up at the North Hadley Fire Station.
Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to recommend Article 22 CPA North Hadley Paul Bell.
Second.
and a second by Andy. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
CPA Golden Court door replacement.
Yes. And they did the windows before, this is the doors.
Okay,
You know, energy ceiling, although, you know, those original things in there are 50 years old, single pane. So,
great.
So it's a door and a side light.
and door and the side lights were appropriate or
Yeah, so it's, so,
not every door had a side light.
okay.
Front and back.
Okay,
I'll recommend, or rather make a motion to recommend Article 23 CPA Golden Court door replacements.
Second.
okay, motion in a second. All in favor? Aye.
The church people, the first congregation that came back to CPA, they, as you probably have heard, and certainly can see, the steeple's got a little bit of a lean. Fortunately, it's a little bit towards town hall too. And so when they got in there, this all came from them looking to work on the clock that's up there. So as part of their going through and looking at how to take the mechanism out and repair the clock, they've noticed that, and you can see the steeple is leaning. CPA voted to support this as part of the historic downtown center, and it's also a neighbor next door to town hall, right in the main intersection, so.
Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve Article 24 for the CPA First Church steeple.
Second? No,
I'll second.
second, okay, all in favor? Aye.
I'm gonna abstain.
Okay. Oh, we have APR land coming up.
It's 4 of them, right?
Wow. 4 APRs. That's something.
So as you know, Hadley is already leaving the state. And don't ask me to go through all the parcels. I don't have the maps in front of me. I don't think I'm scrambling a little bit. But
Now- Yeah, and I'm gonna have questions on some of these, on the APRs, because usually when I see an APR, I'll see an APR. And then another one, that would be what is coming out of CPA. Then there's usually something else coming out of like TDR.
I can address that.
Okay.
In consideration of making less warrant articles, I worked with town council and we just combined them into one. So
Oh.
you'll notice if you read the first part, there's one amount and then right underneath it is a second amount for the TDR. And so it takes you from 8 warrant articles to 4 warrant articles.
I see. So okay, perfect.
Looks like a typo though, unless there's a dollar consideration or something going on there.
Nope, that is not a typo. That is correct.
Dollar.
Yep, $1. I
Okay,
checked that several times.
okay, thank you for that. That's great.
and then there's obviously matching, this is a small portion of the purchase compared to what Kestrel's kicking in or whatever.
Okay, so there's a larger,
Oh, yeah.
I was wondering why these were so small for.
Yeah.
Yeah, usually it's a lot more money.
Yeah.
Okay.
Great.
We need one for each, right?
Mhm.
Okay,
Yes, please.
motion to recommend Article 25, Catherine Kelly, APR CPA.
Second.
Motion by Paul, second by Andy, all in favor. Aye.
Motion to recommend Article 26, Margaret Riley, APR CPA.
Motion by Paul, second by Andy, all in favor. Aye.
Aye. Motion to recommend Article 27, Tolper Family Nominee Trust, CPA.
Second.
Motion by Paul, second by Peter, all in favor. Aye. And
And from this. Article, motion to recommend Article 28, State of Joseph Koski, CPA.
Second.
okay, motion Paul, second by Andy, all in favor. Aye. All right, goes down.
I'm sure there'll be nice maps laying all this out at town meeting. I should have brought them.
And the last one for you is gonna be the DPW building, but I'm assuming that. Since we have no numbers, you don't want to go on that.
That's true. Wednesday.
The architect emailed today and said that they will have them for the meeting on Wednesday.
And
In which
it's
case,
all the way down to the end.
shall I make my favorite motion?
See you all Wednesday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't forget.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a good one. Motion to adjourn finance committee?
So I have a motion by Paul to adjourn, second by
Second.
Peter. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right, and for the select board, do we have any other business to take up tonight? No?
No.
Motion to adjourn by Amy, is there a second? Okay. Second by Jane. Roll call vote, Jennifer.
Roll call vote, Zillow.
Gonna kill me.
He said yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
No, you can unmute yourself. Iser,
Yes.
Keegan,
Yes.
Evanston.
Yeah.
Parsons.
Yeah.